tell you a story. I've always been a reader. I took kind of a break once or twice as an adult, but especially as a kid, I was always reading. And when I was a kid, most of what I read was not just fantasy, but a contemporary kind of fantasy. I tended to read stuff that was closer to a modern setting. I didn't tend to read like high fantasy, like I would have never attempted The Way of Kings as a kid, but I also probably wouldn't have attempted Little Thieves, which I rated as 5 stars and a masterpiece when I read it earlier this year. My family always wanted me to be a little more invested in reality. I was given several books that were contemporary fiction, that were more literary, and it didn't really matter that I wasn't going to read them. I would be asked, like, please just give it a try, and I was like, but you knew I wasn't going to when you gave it to me, so I don't feel any obligation. My family, my grandparents, my mom's side of the family in particular, really thought the best thing was for me to be reading contemporary fiction, I guess. One Christmas, my mom's dad gave me something different. It was fantasy. It wasn't contemporary fantasy. It was a high fantasy setting. It was a pseudo-medieval setting with knights and mages and all this stuff. It was the first 3 books of Protector of the Small by Tamara Pierce. It was First Test, Page, and Squire. My grandpa had found them at a bookstore. They were signed copies, which is probably why he picked them up, because I don't think at the time either of us knew anything about Tamara Pierce. So, he gave me these books. And it took me a while to read the first one. It wasn't like I instantly started reading it and it was love at first sight. It took me a while. But then I read it. And then I read the second one. And then I read the third one. And then I went, where's the rest? Grandpa, where's the rest of it? This is a quartet. Where's book 4? At the time, I didn't quite grasp that book series other than Harry Potter could be incomplete. That hadn't really been a thing that I had encountered. It didn't really occur to me. Oh, Grandpa, where's the rest? Grandpa, can I have book 4 every Christmas, every birthday? Grandpa, can I have book 4 every time I saw him? Grandpa, can I have book 4? Where's book 4? Well, book 4 didn't exist yet. It hadn't been published yet. So instead, I came over one day. We went to my grandparents' house for dinner, and Wild Magic, the first book of Dane's quartet, of the Immortals Quartet, was on the table for me. I still didn't know where book 4 was. I still hadn't processed that it didn't exist yet. So I picked up Wild Magic and I read it. And I finished it. And then the next time I went over, there's Wolfspeaker, book 2 of Dane's quartet, on the table waiting for me. And I read it. And I finished it. And then the next time I came over, book 3 wasn't there. And the next time I came over, book 3 wasn't there. And I was really, like, it would be presumptuous to, like, ask, like, where's this present that is not, it's not Christmas, it's not my birthday, but where's this present that I think I'm gonna get? So it wasn't like I asked directly, necessarily, but I was waiting, like, where's book 3? Well, that summer I went to camp. And I got to camp, I set out my trunk, and I opened my trunk, and books 3 and 4 were sitting on top of my luggage, on top of all my clothes. There was book 3 and 4 for me to read while I was at camp. And I did. And then book 4 came out. As soon as there was a gift-giving chance after book 4 came out, there was book 4, shiny hardcover, only one that isn't signed because Grandpa didn't pick it up from that bookstore at that table. And it's the only one in hardcover, the others were paperback. But there's book 4. And then later, Trickster's Choice came out. Trickster's Choice was the next Tortall book after Caladry's series. And Christmas came around shortly after Trickster's Choice came out. And I opened it up, and there it is. My grandpa gave it to me. And the next year, Trickster's Queen was out. And after that, Terrier. So this was a thing that my grandpa and I had. If there was a new Tamara Pierce book, or if I was catching up on a Tamara Pierce series and I wanted the books, Grandpa Peter, my mom's dad, would get it for me. And if someone else happened to get it at the same time, well, we were returning that one because this was Grandpa Peter's and my thing. Why am I telling this story? Well, because I'm going to have another review going up very soon. And I am so excited about it. It's one of those books, I actually got the arc a while ago. And I read through half of it right away, and then I did a thing that is a very reader thing to do, and I was like, but if I read it all right away, there's not going to be anything left to read. And I held on to it. But I'm going to be finishing it today, and hopefully we'll get the review up today as well. It is the graphic novelization of First Test by Tamara Pierce. This is going to be the least unbiased review I will probably ever do. Unless they get to Allie, I will be less unbiased about Trickster's Choice and Trickster's Queen, if those get graphic novelized. But this is the book that brought me into Tamara Pierce. Tamara Pierce is the writer who brought me into high fantasy. This book created a special tradition between me and my grandpa, and now it's been graphic novelized, and now I have the opportunity to read it ahead of schedule. Like I said, I'm about halfway through it, and oh my gosh, I could probably gush for an hour just about this half, but I'm going to finish it first. I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it.